Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood Doc here, and it's Wednesday, so let's talk about the new books that came out this week. Let's get started. Alright guys, I've got a massive stack this week, so the first book I want to jump into is Helen of Windhorn, issue 5. I thought this was going to be the final issue of this series, but it is not. It is going to go for a 6th issue. So, this is really an amazing character-driven story of Helen, talking about her father, C.K. Cole, who was almost like a H.P. Lovecraft writer, a pulp writer back in the 30s. And he died, and she was sent to Windhorn with her grandfather Barnabas. And they shared these adventures, these crazy adventures, in the first couple of issues. He taught her how to fight. He taught her how to be much more than a normal girl in the, 30s, 40s would have been. And he taught her all of these things, and then he kind of took it away. And so in this issue, you get to see the fallout of that, where she's gone back to her drinking, and actually she felt like life had no purpose, and so she had thought about ending her own life. But instead, her governess goes out to speak to her grandfather and explain to him, you took this girl in, and you gave her this life, and you gave her this adventure, and then you took it away. You walked away. A lot of people have talked about how Tom King can be wordy and overly verbose, but in this particular story, the way that it ends with this issue is that there's going to be a new status quo, I believe. And then there will be issue 6 that comes out on October the 23rd. This is one of the best comic books I've ever read. I don't say that lightly. I'm usually an Alan Moore superhero kind of guy, Swamp Thing, Tom Strong, Promethea. Spider-Man is always my favorite character, of course, but this is one of the best comic books I have ever read in my life. It builds upon these characters. The art by Evely is absolutely gorgeous. I can't say enough good things about it. It's thought-provoking. The details to Windhorn and the details, it kind of reminds me of almost of like a little Nemo type situation with the level of detail. Kind of like Jerry Gianni's art, something like that. So if you haven't read this, I would wait and pick up maybe issue 6 next month, or wait for the trade, which is inevitably coming. But if you want something that has got some depth to it, you can't read this as the last book on your pile every week or every month. You have to give it the proper room to breathe, the proper time, and the proper respect as a story. So bravo, Tom King and company, on Helen of Windhorn, issue 5. That is my pick of the week this week. Second up is Kill All Immortals, issue 3 by Zach Kaplan. And art is by Fico Asio, colors by Thiago Roca, and letters by Hassan Otsman Elhal. This book has been really getting stronger with every issue. It's talking about Freya, who is in love with Owen, who is a mortal. Freya is a goddess. And she chose to love this mortal because she doesn't want to be a god anymore. She doesn't want to have that responsibility. She just wants to have a life and live that life and enjoy it with the person that she loves. But her family won't allow her to do that, and they've set out to kill this man that she loves at any cost, just to stop him, just to shut him down, and to shut her down as well. The artwork in this is kinetic. I don't know how well you can see it, but the colors just absolutely pop off the screen. The screen. The colors absolutely pop off the page. They just pull you into the story and make it so visceral and so dynamic that you can't help but root for her when she has to fight her own brother. And like he said, we never fight. We've never fought, you and I, in all this time, in all these years. And she says, you can put the blade down anytime. We don't have to go that route. We don't have to do this. But he chooses to take her on. She chooses to do what she needs to do in order to keep the life that she wants. And now the story continues, and she searches for a ship that was very important to her father and to her family. I'm not going to show you the last page, but this was a close runner-up for the best book this week, the pick of the week, but it just fell a little bit short. It's more kinetic and a little bit more chaotic, and that's okay. There's room in my life for explosive, Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay movies, as well as there are thoughtful, slow dramas. So this is actually really, really good, and if you've never read it, hey, it's only on issue 3. It's from Dark Horse, and I would definitely try to pick up the first 2 issues and this 3rd issue and see if it's for you. All right, next up is going to be Frankenstein, issue 2, by Michael Walsh as the writer and artist, and Toni Marie Griffin, I believe, is the colorist on this. Let's see. Yes, Toni Marie Griffin is the colorist, and Becca Carey is the letterer. And this highlights the story of Fritz. Fritz is the helper of Frankenstein in creating this monster. And he's the one that goes out and tries to help find these body parts. And here he's spied by a Bobby, and he goes after him. And all he's trying to do is get body parts so that Frankenstein can create his monster. And so the cop throws a flaming torch on him, but he still ends up pushing him out a window and killing him in the process. So you've got the Frankenstein monster here, which he's putting a brain into, but then you have Elizabeth, who is Henry's wife, or fiancée rather, and then you've got the professor and mentor of Frankenstein, and then you've got Fritz here going up against each other, and the doctor and mentor is trying to explain to him, he's gone so far off the rails, I have to pull him back. I have to find a way to save him. And, if you're here trying to help him create this insanity that he has tried to bring back to life. This is Frankenstein. He's creating a body out of body parts, and he's going to send it up into the air and electrify it in a lightning storm and the whole mythos. And when you think about it that way, it really does sound crazy. It sounds completely out of this world and out of the realm of possibility that somebody can electrify a dead cell, a dead brain, and bring it back to life. Well, the whole story is in the first issue that this little guy here saw his father get kidnapped and actually grave robbed after he had passed, and they brought part of his body to Frankenstein's castle so that he could use that, parts of that man's body to create this monster, if you will. And Elizabeth and the doctor are still trying to talk some sense into Frankenstein and say, this is not what you need to do. And meanwhile, Fritz is getting more and more unhinged by everything that's going on and the stress that's coming to him. And so he goes and attacks the Frankenstein monster. And it doesn't end well for him. So what happens now? We have to wait for issue 3. But Michael Walsh's art in this book is absolutely amazing and top-notch. It's I don't want to say fun-filled, although, if you really enjoy horror, sometimes you have to have a dark sense of humor in order to enjoy it. And so it is fun-filled in that instance that you get to see people have their comeuppance. And they want to help out, but at the same time, what they're doing is patently evil and patently against all moral code. So this, just like the Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives and the Dracula series that have come before it, is really an interesting and well thought out introspective look at these universal monsters that are so much more than monsters. There's so many additional layers to that onion to be peeled back of these stories that we think of as really finished because they're 80, 90, 150 years old almost. But there's so much more to uncover, and I'm really happy that Skybound and Robert Kirkman and company have gotten these writers and these artists together to tell these stories. All right. Wolverine Revenge Issue 2. I was really giving this one a chance to pull me back in because the first issue was so completely wacky and wild and just made no sense connectively as a story. And now you get to understand that this is a different reality. This is like an Elseworlds tale, but for Marvel. So it would be, what was the Ruins universe? Alterna universe, something like that. So you can have a little more fun with it now because you realize this is not in continuity in the 616 universe. You have Forge here, you have Wolverine, Danny Moonstar, and Wolverine is trying to figure out who sent these guys after him in the last issue and who captured Captain America and Bucky and blew them up in the previous issue. And so he's going to Forge for help, and Forge ends up finding Magneto's helmet. They find Magneto's body. Magneto died with Asteroid M in the first issue, previous to the first issue. And now we have found Mastermind, who is one of the masterminds behind the killing of Captain America and things like that from the first issue. So he goes and attacks Wolverine mentally, and Wolverine fakes him out and says, nope, I've got this helmet on, and as long as I've got this helmet on, you're going to spill all the secrets, and you're going to tell me everything that you know. So he brings him back to Forge and comes to find out that Victor Creel, a.k.a. Sabretooth, is really who he needs to look for next. The first issue had Deadpool and Omega Red go up against Wolverine and company, and Sabretooth was there as well. And these two get it on again, but there's a surprise at the end that Wolverine has for Sabretooth. So next issue is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth, but the cover shows Colossus as well. So I kind of get, since this is only a 5-issue mini, that you would want to have a Rogues Gallery, and actually a Hogan's Alley of bads for him to go up against if it's called Wolverine Revenge. But at the same time, I don't want this to be a villain of the month sort of thing. He fought Deadpool and Creel and Omega Red in the first issue, and this time around he fought Creel again. And then next issue he's going to fight Colossus. Let's get a little bit deeper story, Jonathan Hickman, because you're doing so excellent on Ultimate Spider-Man that I want this one to succeed as well. But we'll get to Ultimate Spider-Man soon enough. All right, next up is ASM issue 58 by Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr. on pencils, Scott Hanna on inks, and Marcos Menez on colors. I do love this cover. Nobody draws rain quite like Romita Jr., but I don't know. They said that this was going to be an all-out action story, and it is, but it just doesn't pack the punch that older ASM issues held. I get that Janice and Lonnie Lincoln are going at each other, and it's his daughter, so there's deeper stakes involved. But for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not digging it the way that I thought that I would. But occasionally you'll get something huge like this double-page splash page of Spidey jumping in through the window, and you get reminded of exactly how strong John Romita Jr.'s storytelling is. His art seems to have lost a little bit of a punch over the years, but his storytelling, he's watched so much cinema over the years and so many movies that his storytelling is absolutely second to none. But you get part 1 of 3, I guess, of what's supposed to be this last Tombstone story for Wells and Romita Jr. And so it's interesting, and I'm going to give it maybe like a B minus. I'm still happy that Romita's on the title. A lot of people are ready for him to go. His art has seemed to have lost a little bit of a punch, but then again, I say if you gave him 1 book a month, instead of trying to keep him, at the pace of 2 books a month, and then he's going to take 5 issues off to get caught up for the next 5 books, give the man 1 issue of ASM a month and unleash him with somebody, like I said, like Chris Claremont or something along those lines, and let the man go. And just see, or even bring J. Michael Straczynski back if he's interested in doing that book again. And give him a chance to flourish on this title again without editorial mandates. All right, this one we're going to talk about. I've already talked about issue 0 last week, and unfortunately this is the only issue 1 that I picked up this week. So we'll talk about Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, 1 of 10, in the initial assessment video that's coming up. But I will say that this is written by Jeff Loeb with art by Eduardo Risso, with Dave Stewart doing the colors. So it's absolutely brilliant, absolutely a testament to Jeff's friend, Tim Sale, who unfortunately passed away in 2022. So I'm definitely looking forward to this 10-issue miniseries. All right. Black Cloak, issue 8 by Kelly Thompson with art by Meredith McLaren and letters by Becca Carey. This continues the story of Essex and Pax and them trying to solve this new murder mystery that they've got going on. Meanwhile, Essex has to go meet her ex-girlfriend at the library. She's a librarian, and her name's Nita. And so it does say, you've got character growth. And what I like, but if it matters, what I really lost on that night 5 years ago was you. You've got to give credit where credit is due, that this artwork looks kind of cartoony. It looks very childish to some. But I dig the way that it is. And I'm not trying to bash it, but I'm just saying that Kelly Thompson's characterization of these characters is what really brings everything to life. And it's what helps pull you in as a reader. And I think that Black Cloak is one of the best books that Image is putting out right now, and I'm glad that it's back. So if you haven't tried Black Cloak, grab the first 6 issues in a trade paperback and jump on board, and I think you will really, really enjoy this book. All right. Conan the Barbarian, issue 15 is next. It is the finale of The Frost Giant's Daughter, and I can't really show you any interior pages because the Frost Giant's daughter is not real good at wearing clothes, and that pops up all through the issue. So, but the story by Jim Zub and the art by Doug Braithwaite is absolutely on fire in this issue. I miss Rob De La Torre for the next couple of issues until hopefully he comes back again. But I will tell you that Doug Braithwaite, I've known his artwork since he took over the Universe X and Paradise X miniseries from Marvel almost 20 years ago. It's very solid. It's excellent work. It's thought out. It's technical. And it's action-packed because it fits Conan to a T. So if you have not been reading this book, find it. I don't care if you read it digitally. I don't care if you pick it up however. But Conan is on a path of fire with Jim Zub that he has not been on since the 70s or possibly the early 80s with John Buscema, Barry Windsor Smith. This is one of the best books that's on the shelves right now. Thank you, Heroic and Titan, for bringing Jim Zub to this title and Doug Braithwaite to this title. and let's keep both of them on here for as long as possible. All right, and this is Hello Darkness, issue 3 from Boom Studios. It's a anthology series, and I haven't had time, since I had such a big stack, to really look at anything except for the short Something is Killing the Children tie-in issue, story in this issue. And it's talking about, let's see, who we got? Barry. So Barry was sitting on his back porch, and he sees this girl get taken by something that's not there. And then there's the body, and the bartender is talking about it, and he says, it gets under your skin what's happened around here. And she said, well, what do the other people think about Barry and what's been going on around here? So it's really interesting title, really interesting cover. I'll do a little bit deeper dive into this once I get some time to really dig into it. All right, next up is another book that it was kind of on the chopping block. I wasn't really sure whether or not I wanted to keep going with it. But Deadpool Team Up the first issue was really excellent. The story is kind of all over the place. And at the end of it, you've got Crystar here on the cover. Nobody's seen Crystar since I don't know when. Apparently there was a weird world, which is where he lives, crossover at some point, but really, when's the last time anybody saw Crystar other than the 1980s? But I also didn't know that he was so huge. He looks like, as drawn by Rob Liefeld, he looks like he's about 10 feet tall. And he's ripped, and yet he's made of crystal. So you still have the story with Deadpool and Wolverine and Raul Dorn here, and now you have Crystar that's joined in. And I buy this because of the Rob Liefeld artwork. Is it his absolute best artwork that he's ever done? No. But does it still have that kinetic, just boundless energy that Rob always brings to every title that he works on? Yes. And you get massive pages like this, panels, and then you've got all-out action, and people with extremely long necks and haircuts that haven't been seen since the 90s. So, a blast, and I'm back on board with it, just like I was with Wolverine Revenge. So I guess I'm going to stick it out for the next couple of issues until this wraps up, because this is supposed to be Liefeld's last work on Deadpool. Okay, just a few more books to go here, folks. All right, we've got Patra, Issue 2, Escape from Jeremy Jones or Die. This is by James Robinson with art by Scott Collins. This is part 2 of 4 from Dark Horse Comics. And here we have her trying to escape from Jeremy Jones, this psychotic killer. And she's still wearing this mask, but she gets tossed into the river. And when she goes into the river, then the mask disappears. And she says she can't swim. So where did she go exactly? Then you get to go and get to see the sheriff talking to this character, Ronald, from the first issue, which is kind of the Dr. Loomis character from Halloween that is going after this Jeremy Jones. So they talk, and they're trying to figure things out. The doctor steps out onto the porch to go get him a smoke on his pipe. Meanwhile, Patra finds somebody that she thinks that she knows, but how can that be, because they're gone? So you learn a lot more about the character, and you learn that apparently she, along with her family, have passed due to some sort of incident. But her sister comes out and says, I won't beat around the bush. If you want to see Mom and Dad again, you have to avenge their murders and your murder too. So, who killed Patra? Was it Jeremy Jones, or was it somebody else? You got to keep reading to find out. This has been a pretty solid series from James Robinson, who we haven't seen a whole lot of story from in the last little while. But I'm definitely in for the next 2 issues, and this art by Scott Collins is different than anything I've ever seen him do. So I'm finding this to be extremely, extremely interesting, and I think you guys will too. All right, we're not going to linger on that cover for too long, but we have issue 69 of Saga. And Saga is continuing the story that it's slowly unfolding. It's one of those things like Planetary used to be, or Promethea, or things like that. It's kind of like the more layers of onion that you peel back, then the deeper the story goes. And this is still a story of Hazel, and then you get the character of Squire here, who's asking for help. You get the Will, and all of these characters. It's kind of like it's a giant, big story on a massive scope that you can't really get your head around if you're reading it in individual issues. If you pick it up, kind of like I did when the series returned, I think with issue 56 about 2 years ago, then you have to really go back and read the compendium for the first 50 issues or the first 55 issues to really get an idea of what's going on in the story. It's politics. It's what else? It's socio-political commentary along the lines of Star Wars. And when it gets done with, I think, a 108th issue, then it's going to be an absolute master class in how to world build, character build, and keep people on the hook for years and years and years due to the innate, interesting nature of the story. So that was Saga, issue 69. And the last book that we're going to talk about tonight is, of course, Ultimate Spider-Man number 9 by Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto. This brings the first of this new Sinister Six into the fold, and this is going to be the Black Cat, but it's not the Black Cat that you know and that you love. This is Cicchetto's artwork again, still just firing on all cylinders. And Mary Jane talking to J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker about this is what's making your new newspaper is Spider-Man, whether you want it to be or not. And so they have to go back and say, is this really the kind of newspaper that we want to run? And Mary Jane reminds them, hey, with these numbers, says what they mean is that is the devil cannot cast you out. So even though they're not really doing the newspaper that they wanted to do, they still can't be pariahs in their field. Meanwhile, we still have Harry Osborn, that is, working with Otto Octavius here and with Peter to figure out more about their costumes, which were provided by Tony Stark. Again, what I think about this book is the characterization is the strongest thing about these instances and in this story, is the characterization is so real that it feels like these are people that you could run into outside. These are people in the world outside your window, much more so than what you're reading in the Marvel 616 these days. These are characters that seem to be without an agenda as far as political or DEI or anything. They are just good, solid stories with good, solid characterization and awesome artwork. So just like every month that it comes out, when it comes out, this is also my runner-up for pick of the week, because Ultimate Spider-Man just fires on all cylinders again with Hickman and Cicchetto. Alright guys, thanks for joining me on this video. That was a massive haul. That was a lot of books to read through. I don't know that I've ever gotten that many books in 1 week, but at the same time, I really enjoyed sharing this with you guys. What did you guys pick up this week at the shop? What local shops do you shop at? I'm trying to get a lot more comments and build this build this world up with you guys. Build this channel into something greater than just me as a talking head showing off what I pick up and what I'm interested in and all of that. So tell me what you picked up and tell me where you picked it up from. Where is your local LCS? Are you close to Memphis or do you shop somewhere else? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't, like and subscribe to the video, pop a comment down below, hit that like, and we will see you on the next series of videos. Have a great night.